Brian Kelly just met with the media about an hour ago and discussed myriad topics of the day as LSU continues to prep for Clemson. Very quickly on the injury front, and then we'll get into the meat of the offensive line, but I do want to pass along some news for those that missed this. Whit Weeks has not practiced the last few days. Did not practice on Friday, did not practice on Monday when the media was out there. He was asked, why did that happen? Simply said, load management. We're just not going to overload Whit at this point. I'm fine with that. That's actually the reason. And Whit's at practice. He had his helmet on Monday, tennis shoes, jersey, observing, in good spirits. I think they're just taking things easy with Whit Weeks. That's fine with me. He's got a surgically repaired leg. Don't want to put more strain on it than you need to over the course of a very hot month that includes a lot of physical play. Okay, that's fine. So I'm good with that. Harold Perkins was not at practice on Monday at all. We didn't see him anywhere in the facility. He was asked why. Personal day. Had to, quote-unquote, take care of some things. He was back out there today at practice. No issues there. And the last note was on Michael Van Buren. LSU's backup quarterback was seen with some tape on his throwing hand. Brian Kelly just said, just jammed his index finger there. No issue. He went through some light throwing. They're going to put some more light throwing on him this afternoon, and he should be ready to go for tomorrow's practice. So, not ideal that your quarterback had a little hand injury, but certainly not anything significant. Michael Van Buren will have missed the last couple of days. Colin Hurley was taking the second-team reps. All should be good there. In totality, and I don't think I'm jinxing anything. I don't need to knock on a bunch of wood or anything. Like, I'm just stating the very obvious. LSU has managed workloads very strategically. They have not exceeded 2 hours at practice. They've done some work inside. They've had recovery days when they have a physical day, the day before and after. They take some time off their feet. And LSU right now is very healthy moving forward into camp. Again, I don't think that's some sort of wild jinxing statement. It's just stating a fact. We're at practice a few times a week. I don't see a lot of red no-contact jerseys. In fact, none on the players that aren't the quarterbacks. And they feel like they've gotten work done, but have done so in a smart manner, if you will. And it appears that way. So no significant updates on those guys, just your normal camp stuff. Day off here, bump and bruise here, personal day off here. Everybody appears to be moving forward this week. So that was the news on attendance and the issues off the field. Let's talk about on the field offensive line. The story yesterday when we went to practice was very clearly that you were seeing shakeup on the offensive line. Paul Mubenga and DJ Chester rotating at left guard. Mubenga was getting more of the first-team reps. And then you saw Carius Curne, who had been almost exclusively at left tackle, moving to the right side to compete with Weston Davis over there. They both worked with the first team on Monday, and you feel like that competition is ongoing. Well, Brian Kelly was asked about it today, and we didn't have time to cut that audio up, but I've got all the quotes right here. And this is what Brian Kelly said in regards to the entirety of the offensive line. Tyree is going to be our starting left tackle, meaning Tyree Adams. We knew that. Okay. I think there's still a battle between Paul and Cohen for one of the guard positions. That's Paul Mubenga and Cohen Echols. Now, Cohen Echols usually plays right guard when we watch, but they're suggesting potentially Paul Mubenga and Cohen Echols competing at left guard. Thompson has nailed down one of the guard positions. Braylon has nailed down the center position. And I think there's still a battle for that next tackle position. So to pare that down and say it a little bit more succinctly, Tyree Adams left tackle, Braylon Moore center, Josh Thompson right guard. Right tackle and left guard still up for competition. DJ Chester was not mentioned by Brian Kelly in that quote. Wilson Alexander from The Advocate followed up and said, hey, you didn't mention DJ. Is he still involved there? And Brian Kelly said, in some ways, we're doing a disservice to him because we've got him playing center, guard. He's playing a little bit of right tackle. He's competing for a starting position as well, but we can't put them all out there. Somebody's going to have to be in a rotational position, whether it's Paul, Cohen, DJ, Weston, Carius. Those are all guys that are going to eventually play. So, look, I generally am going to pay more attention to what we see on the field as opposed to what a coach says in a press conference. I think it's possible that Brian Kelly forgot to mention DJ Chester in that guard competition. Maybe it's not. I'm just guessing that. It happens at times. I'll put all the cards out on the table because you will probably hear this quote on Matt's show when they cut it up and play it 1 hour from right or 2 hours from right now. He called Josh Thompson by the wrong name. He called him Justin. They don't have a Justin. It's Josh. It's Thompson. He probably slammed those two together and came up with Justin. At times, players, coaches in front of a microphone, in front of cameras, will fudge a name. It happens. Sometimes you forget somebody. It happens. I do 10 hours of radio a week in front of this microphone. I forget stuff in the middle of the train of my thought all the time. It just happens. And so he may have just forgotten to say DJ Chester's name. He may be serious that Paul Mubenga and Cohen Echols are more likely competing for that spot at guard. I've seen DJ Chester take a lot of first-team reps, so I don't necessarily believe he's completely out of the picture. But the point that Brian Kelly made today is essentially we have 3 spots nailed down. We have 4 guys between the 2 other spots, and a lot of guys are going to play. And I've seen Brad Davis do this over the course of his time at LSU. You have seen rotation at offensive line spots. Not as much last year because you really had exactly what you wanted last year. You had 4 guys who were entrenched starters, and then you put a center out there and you didn't take him off the field. But you've seen rotations. Brad Davis's first year under Brian Kelly here, 2022, you did see significant rotation. You saw guys being mixed and matched. And that happened, and it wasn't a great offensive line. Jaden Daniels kind of masked that, but it shows that they're not afraid to rotate some guys, whether that's for fresh legs, whether that's dictated by the spot in the game. If you've got a 10-point lead with 10 minutes to go in the game and you want to get a team out there that's more adept at running the football, put that guy out there. If you're down 10 with 3 minutes to go and you feel like you need to put the guy that's better at pass protection in there put him in there. Like you may have some different skill sets. I don't know what DJ Chester is better at than Cohen Echols. I don't know what Paul Mubenga is better at than Cohen Echols. I have no idea. I don't know what Cohen Echols' skill set is best suited for. I've seen Cohen Echols essentially play in half of one game, the Texas Bowl. I've seen Paul Mubenga play in 4 games. I've seen DJ Chester play center, not much guard. And again, I'm not an offensive line savant, so I couldn't tell you. I can tell you right now that Berrien Brown is faster than Kyle Parker and Nick Anderson. I can tell you right now that Nick Anderson is 6'3" and Aaron Anderson is 5'8", and they play completely different styles of football. I can tell you Jack Pyburn is a better run defender than Patrick Payton. There are skill sets on this team that I can look at a given position and go, this is what they need that guy to do. This is what this guy is better at. This competition, I can't handicap in that way. It's very difficult to evaluate individual offensive linemen in an 11-on-11 while we're at practice at field level. When they snap the ball, there is just a massive collision of like 11 guys at the line of scrimmage, and singling out 2 of them and determining how that worked out, if it's not the tackle right in front of you, is tough to do play in and play out, especially when you're trying to follow the ball and you're trying to evaluate the linebackers and you're trying to look at what's going on in the secondary and who's rotated in at safety for that snap, and there's just a lot of stuff happening. So I can't give you a perfect synopsis of what LSU looks like for the Clemson game at offensive line in terms of rotation or who the starters are. I can tell you what we see at practice. And my sincere guess, which is just that, it's an educated guess, is that Adams will be the left tackle. I think Mubenga is surging at left guard. Braylon Moore will be the center. Josh Thompson will play right guard. And I think they're testing Carius Curne with Weston Davis at right tackle. I think Weston Davis ultimately wins that job and is the first guy out there. But Brian Kelly said this today. I don't think you're going to see 5 guys trotting out here every single play. You're going to see some other guys definitely getting into the game as well. So I think you might see 6 or 7 offensive linemen against Clemson. I'm basing this on what we've seen at practice, which is rotation, and what Brian Kelly is saying in the press conference. I don't have any other information to go off of. It seems like a pretty reasonable conclusion to draw. I think you have unproven players, competition at different places, and ultimately they're going to need to see some game reps. And this is why I would really like to play Clemson in week 2 or 3. But you're not. You're playing them in week 1. And this is what we've talked about all summer long with trying to get ready for that first game. You want to set your depth chart and get moving. And unfortunately for LSU at this point, based on what we're seeing at practice and what we're hearing from Brian Kelly in the press conferences, it's not settled at offensive line. They're still looking at things, and you're 11 games from kickoff. And oh, by the way, Clemson might have 2 top 10 picks on the defensive front. So it's not ideal. It's not a disaster. It's just unsettled at this point. we'll see what LSU can come up with in the next 11 days. And I'm endlessly fascinated with what we see on Saturday night inside Tiger Stadium at 7:30 when we're going to be able to watch them practice and I would assume run a number of plays. Who's out there on the offensive line and how do they look? I'll tell you this. I will have a better sense of what that offensive line looks like from that vantage point. Me personally, again, not an offensive line savant. Nobody's ever asked me to coach or evaluate offensive linemen, but I'll have a better vantage point of who's playing well and where pressures are coming from the press box seat that we have up above at film level than I will on field level 15 yards from the line of scrimmage with a massive humanity crashing into each other. It's just an easier vantage point for us. I think you'll get a better read from the media on how the offensive line plays on Saturday than you will have really from any practice thus far that we've been able to watch. So we'll tell you. We'll talk about it on Monday's show for sure, and we'll write it up Saturday night on LouisianaSports.net as well. Looking forward to getting inside Tiger Stadium for the first time since LSU Oklahoma last year. Did I go to the spring game? I did go to the spring game. Forgot. That's how impactful I think the spring game is. But nice to get inside Tiger Stadium this coming Saturday. Looking forward to that. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.